This video is about using technology to improve your life and preserve the things you care about. I worked on a project for Adafruit a couple months back documenting a HyperHDR build. HyperHDR is an open source project that takes the video stream of whatever you're watching and then converts it to RGB color data to light up RGB LEDs like neopixels behind TV, and it gives it this like ambient light effect. For the guide, I used a Pi 5 with pretty standard setup and a Neo Trinky. And when I write a guide for Adafruit, I always want to make sure that the hardware and the setup that I guide people through is accessible, like it's going to transfer to a lot of different setups. So when I wrapped up the HyperHDR guide, I really liked the lights, but I wanted it to be more integrated into my specific setup. And this meant switching from a Pi 5 to a Pi 4 so that I could pair it with a PoE hat and power it through my PoE switch behind my TV. Now, could I have done this in the guide? Sure, but most people I don't think have PoE switches. Now, I also wanted to add on to the project, I wanted to have kind of a status OLED that would tell me the Pi's IP address just at a glance and HyperHDR status. And I didn't want it to just be a Pi behind the TV. I also wanted it to be enclosed to protect it from, dust and cats, both their fur and their claws and their teeth and their jumps. Now, a little while ago, Noe Ruiz designed this super cool PC case styled Pi enclosure, and I really wanted to use that. So I did some remixes to it, took out the side ports because, like I said, it's going to be PoE. There were also a couple other add-ons I took out, and then I changed up the screen mounting holes from a TFT to the OLED. I also changed up the mounting holes from the fan that he had used to a Noctua fan that I'd had in my parts bin for forever, so excited to use that. And of course I kept the super snazzy handle. And then for printing, I had seen recently this kind of flat pack PC case that came in what was described as a macaron color scheme, which was these cool pastels, so I tried to emulate that with the filament choice. Now, what's super great about this case is that it has a ton of interior space, so it was no issue adding on the PoE hat, and then I also stacked on a stemma breakout that could just sit on the headers. Now, originally this was to connect the OLED to the Pi, but since I was adding in the Noctua fan, I thought, I could also control this instead of it just being like on or off. So there is the EMC 2101 fan controller, so I added that in as well. Now, after assembling everything, I wrote some CircuitPython code with Blinka to be able to have the fan be controlled based on the CPU temperature of the Pi, and then I had the OLED display the IP address, the HyperHDR status, the temperature of the Pi, and also the RPM of the fan. And once that was all tested, I made it a system service so that it would run on boot automatically. So one of the reasons why I loved this build and decided to make it a permanent part of our living room setup is that I love TV and movies. You could say I'm mildly obsessed. I always want to see everything. If something's referenced in a book or another movie, I then immediately have to see it. And I love rewatching stuff too. And a couple months back, Noe and I were watching Mad Men. It was his first watch. It was probably my, 20th or 50th. And we were watching it on DVD because Mad Men hadn't been streaming on a service that I subscribed to since June 2020. Now, as we're going along here, we've reached season 7, the last season. I put in the first season 7 DVD into the DVD player and it won't play. And I thought, is something damaged with it? What's going on here? I put it into the Blu-ray player that's connected to my computer, plays. Put it in Noe's Xbox, plays, won't play in the Blu-ray player. Fucking frustrating, let me tell you. Now, of course, we could have watched it on the Xbox. I think we did for a couple episodes, but it's so annoying to use game controllers, in my opinion. When you're watching movies, I always get the controls wrong. So what I ended up doing was I ripped the DVD onto my computer and then cast it from my computer to the TV so we could watch it that way. Now, watching this series I've seen a million times, after watching it on DVDs and having to remember where I was in the disc, was really awesome. It was just so relaxed, just like how we've gotten used to streaming, where I could tell which file had been viewed, and I was just able to use my usual remote to navigate, and it just worked. And this got me thinking, and I think it was just perfect timing for everything, where I started thinking about how it had been a long-term goal of mine to digitize my media collection. And it's probably been over a decade that I've been thinking about doing this. And I've started it 2 other times, and both times I stopped. And it was mainly because adding in the metadata was so tedious and annoying. I probably got the furthest with this idea about a year ago for another Adafruit project. We worked on this NFC media player where you would tap a card and it would be tied to a movie and it would play the movie. Obviously, I needed movies to be able to demo this, so I started it, and then I was like, okay, I could do this, you know? I could have this Ubuntu server set up, I could have the movies on there, and, you know, maybe we'll integrate the NFC, maybe we won't. But again, the metadata, it was so annoying, and it's such a manual process. You have to rip the DVD, you have to convert the file, yada, yada, yada. But since then, I've gotten a lot better at writing Python code, but not just Python scripts, but slightly more advanced Python code, especially where I'm writing a lot more code every day for Adafruit. And as I started thinking about this, I realized I could probably automate a lot of these steps with Python. And so I took these steps step by step into a Python script. First, it was using make mkv. It has its command line interface, integrating that into a Python script so that I could, you know, rip the disk from the command line. Then I used Handbrake's command line interface within the Python script to convert the files. And then for the metadata, which is really the annoying part, I used the IMDb API to be able to fetch the metadata and use FFmpeg to insert the metadata into the file. And this was all working really great. And then even though I can do command line stuff, I'm still, at the end of the day, a visual person. So I use tkinter in Python to code up a, you know, very 1998 styled GUI that had buttons for ripping the disk and for interfacing with all this stuff. And so I went through this with a couple disks, and as I found issues or inconsistencies, I updated the scripts and the modules so that everything was working, especially with TV seasons. Those are weird, man. Like, they are all formatted differently. And the weirdest one I found was the Viz Media re-release of the original Sailor Moon series. Instead of having individual video files, it's just one file that has all the episodes in it. Luckily, there is a make mkv tool that you can use in the command line to split files. So I added a module that would take the file, analyze it for the number of chapters, and then you could say how many episodes are there, how many chapters per episode, and divide it up like that. And this was all going really great. I was backing them up to an SSD that I had in my main computer, where I would kind of use it for Docker containers and stuff. So it was kind of a spare disk, but you know, if I was really going to be backing up on my media, it's going to need a lot more space, and I don't necessarily want it living on my day-to-day PC. So over the years, I've had this kind of spare PC that I've used for various things. It's run Ubuntu, it's run as an extra Windows machine during the pandemic, and I decided that I would install Debian on it and use it as a media server. Now, this PC is a first-generation Ryzen system, still very capable, especially for what I was using it for, and it is actually housed in what was my first PC case. And I noticed when I pulled it out that the rubber seams on the case had started to get sticky, or you could say emulsify, which is probably my least favorite feeling in the world. So I covered those parts up with washi tape, so the case is now very colorful. And I really didn't want to have to invest any extra money into the actual server besides the drives. And the case has good fans. The only issue is they are super bright green LED fans. And it's gonna live in our bedroom and be on all the time, so I didn't really want green lights everywhere. Luckily though, because the case is from like 2015, it's not like a LED strip around the fan. It's just these 5mm LEDs that are then lighting the acrylic around the fan. So I was able to just snip the wires to disable the LEDs. So I got 2 identical 16GB hard drives that are meant for NAS, and because I was going to set them up in a RAID 1 configuration. And I used MD-ADM to create the RAID arrays within Debian itself. For the actual media server, I went with Jellyfin. It's an open source project, and I liked its features compared to Plex. I'd actually tried to set up Plex a couple times, and I always ran into issues. I have to say Jellyfin, I set it up and it just worked, so. And then to access everything, I used Tailscale, which is another open source tool. It's a VPN, which allows you to connect to all your devices directly. And you may be thinking, hey, if you're on your network, like, why would you want that? Well, with it, I can use my phone to watch my media, but also my parents use all of my streaming services. We kind of, you know, we subvert the millennial stereotype, okay? And I wanted them to be able to watch the movies too, and also to back up their DVD collection. So by setting up Tailscale, I was able to access the Jellyfin media server on their Google TV at their house, which is great. And I was also able to set them up a profile, much like you would in a streaming app, so that they'll have their own watch history and everything. Now, for simplicity and speed, I'm still doing the actual logging process on my main PC to the SSD. And I wanted to have an easier process to move the files from the SSD to the media server without having to remember, oh yeah, I need to batch this out. So I wrote another Python script that checks if there are new files compared to the media server, and it moves them over. And I was able to use my old friend Windows Task Scheduler to do this, so that 1 a.m. every day the job runs, which is really awesome. Now, like I said, this all started a couple months back in November. It's now January. It's been a little bit of a slow process because I wanted to take my time to really understand everything that was involved in this, and I wanted to do it in a way that it would be sustainable. When you're researching all this stuff, there's a lot of options, and they aren't necessarily laid out in a way that makes sense in that, oh, I just do this and it's done. You kind of have to do your own research, especially anytime on the internet Linux gets involved. A lot of people start saying their opinions as facts, so you kind of have to filter out the information to figure out what's going to work best for your setup. And I'm so glad that I was able to finally seriously take on this project. I feel like it happened at the exact right time for a variety of reasons. The first being that I was able to use Python to make it all a lot easier and streamlined for myself, but also what a weird time for TV and movies and media in general. I think you could say that we're deeply immersed in the Enshittification of all of that, especially with streaming services, whether it's the pricing or the licensing, or to bring up Mad Men again, the botching of re-releases. And it's hard to not also thinking about, with the current political climate, censorship, and how is that going to affect how certain things are going to be available or what's going to be made. So I think, you know, good time to think about this kind of stuff. I've also felt a peacefulness while working on this project. I feel like I'm ensuring that I'm backing up my digital media before, you know, we've all heard about, you know, one day disk rot is going to happen to all these disks, we've been told. It could be today, it could be tomorrow, we don't know, but we've been told it may or may not happen. So I feel like I'm beating that out. But I'm also making it so that my family is able to enjoy our media purchases in a way that, you know, is a little bit more accessible, where you don't have to think about where is the disc, oh, now I have to get the disc into the player, yada yada. And on top of that, to have a little bit of a bookend, to have some pretty lights illuminating our media viewing as well. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you've ever thought about doing this, now might be the time to, you know, try it out. The tools are out there. I feel like storage is also cheaper right now, for now at least. And, you know, the tech is right, the timing is right, you know, take control of your media. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.